Greetings to you, Rose. This is Aridif. That is Aridif, and this is it spelled. I know that you have many queries in this evening. You may begin at your leisure.
Thank you, Aridif. How are you doing this evening, by the way?
Yes, very excited and pleased to be with you in this moment, understanding above all things we share and communicate with one another, to assure you that you are loved, and our opinion is of the greatest and utmost importance.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so this is continuing on along the lines of our first session. That was a personal session, and now I have really no problems with bringing this out where others can understand about the spirit journey and clarifying things that they might receive through soul communication as to whether they're true or not with their oversoul is always very important. So that's my objective in this. The first set of questions. Was I one of the original Pleaidians who formed the Earth Collective?
Within your own energy, as you connect Pleaidian consciousness, there is a great deal of both communicating and incarnating into the Pleaidian region. As your own energy touches backwards into time with Pleaidian consciousness, you were part of the collective that was responsible for communicating and genetically engineering the DNA of Pleaidian consciousness. In that Pleaidian consciousness, brought down to earth consciousness, the co-creation shared expanded into giving that great gift to the human collective consciousness. So in that part, you are part both Pleaidian consciousness and have experienced the human consciousness both in the same time periods.
Okay. What was my Pleiadian name and gender when I came to Earth or connected with Earth as a collective?
Yes, there are many different energies that come forward when you bring that idea within your own consciousness up. There are many entities that connect to that concept. Right now, one of the more prevalent energies that are within you is that of a feminine energy, and one that is called Lautika.
Okay. And did I join the first generation of Lemurians?
Within the Lemurian collective consciousness, you have great deals of energy going backwards and forwards from your consciousness now to that period. There is at least 2 incarnations that we can perceive in this moment that would relate that if your desire to connect back to those incarnations were of a high enough excitement and enough within the forefront of your consciousness, you could. But let us express to you, first, to perhaps clarify more deeply upon this subject, when you are looking backwards or forwards into time, what most humans call their past or future incarnations, there are moments in time where one energy is prevalent and relevant, in another time it is not. So, for instance, you are looking back into your Pleaidian energy, into your Lemurian energy. In this moment now you are deeply connected to both of them. But let us say that perhaps 15 years previous, if you were to ask the same question, you would not be connected in those moments. And it is not to say that you are not connected at all. It means that you are not connected well enough for us to see the lines touching one another, or you are not connected well enough to even have those possibilities or probabilities of your past incarnations. And this works simply to the way that energy works within the universal physical construct. You are 3rd to 4th density being now. You are sharing your consciousness amongst many. And as you are in a co-creative collective consciousness of the Earth incarnation process, this allows you to dip far more deeply than some entities who are in a closed circuit incarnation cycle. For instance, if you are looking at Treb Bor Yit NE's race, they are very deeply connected to their own racial consciousness. This means that as a Yit, they only incarnate as Yits for the majority of the process. There are small variations with under 11%, perhaps ups and downs that you would look at as a variance, where they are incarnating into other cycles, and as they incarnate into those other cycles, it remains fluid in consciousness unless one specific energy is tied more deeply than others, and then it would be a more permanent structure. But still, with the 11% variance, this is not much. Humans can carry a great deal larger variance within their own percentiles. We are working with some humans who have a 94 percentile of changing variance of their consciousness. This means that as they incarnate as a human in this incarnation, their excitement and energy can shift through variance of other entities. This is somewhat due to your 12 different DNAs that your consciousness holds of the physical body. That means that there are 7 different races who place their DNA within your consciousness that allowed them the variance of switching energies from one to another. So in one moment you would link back to your, perhaps as you would look at it, ancient Pleaidian consciousness. Ancient Pleaidian being one that is Pleaidian consciousness that predecesses ours, or precedes. Or let us use the different word, it forecomes, so it is before our own consciousness. And in that, humans are able to connect to that, and looking further outward, they can change to Arcturian energy, or Syrian energy, within the blink of an eye. So the variance level is different for all. In this moment, you are deeply connected to your Pleiadian consciousness, as well as your Lemurian.
Okay. What are the names of the 2 Lemurian consciousnesses, and was I part of the first Lemurian sisterhood?
Within Lemurian consciousness, there are different energies that perhaps encompass this concept, but one energy that we are very well aware of is a name that still holds energy to your name now. You hear the concept of Rose. That name is carried on throughout many of your incarnations. That is what some would call the fractal identity, or the fractal fingerprint. As a fractal consciousness, this means that you are one small part of a larger consciousness, which is called the Oversoul. And in that fractal consciousness, this carries a large array of energy. Some entities carry such a large fingerprint within their smaller fractal consciousness that same themes reappear throughout life over and over, similar names or sound vibrations, and within yours, Rose rings truly.
I see. Okay. And was there a connection with that first Lemurian sisterhood, the early ones?
Yes, when you are looking at Lemurian sisterhood, there is an energy that is deeply connected. There are feminine entities within the Lemurian consciousness, as you are aware, that are connected to one another. Within their own connection, they brought a greater mindset because they were able to link to one another more deeply. Lemurian consciousness in the first place was a very well-connected race and a well-connected structure, but as their own consciousness gathered together with common purpose and excitement, it brought that own crescendo of consciousness much higher and much larger.
Thank you.
Yes.
So number 2, I'm hoping this won't get too deep into this, because you've already covered this in past available lectures that are on the internet. Can you please briefly explain how the original Earth collective of 144,000 oversouls formed the 288,000 oversoul grouping, and was it through something similar to mitosis? And can the oversouls also be termed creator and creatrix parents?
Yes, first of all, let us look at the most simple aspect of consciousness. Consciousness creates. Consciousness strives to experience. The Earth Collective Consciousness being no different. The Earth Collective Consciousness decides to place themselves within a solar system collective that is fitting for their needs. Within that, 144,000 units of consciousness called the Oversoul decided to incarnate as the Earth Collective. Now, in that essence, as they desired to start using their first density selves to cluster together with one another to form the physical planet, the manifestation of the physical Earth that you are standing upon now, it decides also that it must have more experiences. They understood that this creative and collective consciousness that they were about to jump into the journey of was going to be one that was so expansive and so different from the ones that they have experienced previously that they needed a new mechanism in order to achieve the ability to switch their realities at a much quicker pace. So through the mitosis state, 144,000 oversouls created 144,000 twin souls. That means that the one oversoul, which has many fractals of consciousness in many different levels of consciousness, dimensions of consciousness, created a twin. This twin was not an experiential entity. This twin soul was the same size, the same blueprint as the original soul, but its sole purpose was to use its own consciousness to devise infinite amounts of probabilities for all of the consciousnesses that are held within the original oversoul. So let us use, for example, the oversoul consciousness. For example, if it decides to live 100,000 incarnations, meaning one human consciousness in each period of humanity's history through each generation, then the twin soul would decide to have 100,000 units of consciousness that all they did was play out every single probability that the 100,000 consciousnesses within the oversoul had, and it would give all opportunities to experience all things. That consciousness in the focus of the oversoul could be switched out from the twin soul at any moment, giving it opportunity and vibration literally every trillionth of a fraction of a second in order to achieve vibration changes at a high and rapid rate.
That's a very excellent explanation. So when I hear the terms alpha and omega, does that refer to something similar to what would be termed a creator and a creatrix, being the creatrix being a feminine energy, creator being a masculine energy, or something to that effect?
Yes, it can be construed as this, and yes, vibrations are very fitting towards this one concept. In our perception, when we look at creator consciousness, when we look at the universal consciousness, it is both neither masculine or feminine, but it is also both masculine and feminine. It is a consciousness that is non-physical in nature, so requires no certain energetic signature. In fact, it is quite limitless in the way it expresses itself throughout consciousness in a physical reality. That is why you see such an extreme value and such extreme diversity within the universal construct. If you are looking at alpha and omega, this has several meanings when it comes to the human connecting. When the human connects to those concepts, they are literally bringing about both the first and last vibration of sound quality from creator source, what most humans call the Big Bang. It also represents both masculine and femininity in creator consciousness, but it also deals with simple vibrational tools that are used upon a subatomic level to bring forward conscious communication from non-physical to physical entities.
Okay, excellent explanation.
Yes.
Can you please briefly explain the symbol of the rose that I embody? Was I the ascended master rose of light in an earth incarnation? Was I involved in Atlantis? And what was the name of the Atlantean incarnation that most directly connects with my mission in this lifetime? And lastly, was I involved in the early days of the Sisterhood of the Rose, and in what capacity? If you wish me to break that down, please let me know.
Yes, it is quite simple to place them all into one answer. So we are looking at this in this certain construct. As you understand, the rose vibration, both verbally and energetically, carries throughout many incarnations. Your Atlantean incarnation is no different. There was an entity within the Atlantean consciousness that was sort of a priest in nature, was a great teacher of conscious thought process, of creative powers, and of co-creative efforts. This entity brought through a power that most humans now call perhaps the group of Rose, or even the sisterhoods of Rose, and in those groups bringing the feminine power to an all-time high. Just as the consciousness within Lemurian, that entity was a pinnacle for feminine energy to round about, to gather by and to rally by. And by rallying to this consciousness, the feminine energy brought itself very diverse amount of learning and expansion in a short time for one another. This consciousness, this imprint of Rose, carries on throughout many incarnations, and through the Atlantean consciousness it was bringing a great name. It was brought forward with a great symbolism of the feminine energy, and through the stories that have remained through Earth consciousness, but more so that lie within the grid system of the Earth, that many people have access to and understanding, this consciousness still rings throughout this day. So if you are looking at what your own purpose is within your creation, it is to find that great energy within you, that same once feminine energy that brought about great pinnacle of learning and expressive concepts, to expanding the human consciousness through finding their feminine energy.
Excellent. What was my name in that Atlantean lifetime that you were referring to?
It is the same vibrational signature of Rose. When you are feeling that concept, it brings forward more so and more so.
Okay, excellent. Why do the Rosicrucians as a group resonate with me so much? I think you were answering it in that prior question, but am I a living embodiment of the symbol of the Rose Cross through my spirit journey in this lifetime?
This is one way to perhaps perceive it, but in our perception, the reason why it resonates so greatly is because all of the energies that these entities stand for in gaining and grouping together with one another is the same principles that you have taught in many lifetimes, the same principles that the Rose feminine energy brought forward for so many lifetimes. These same principles are what both you have taught and you have embodied so greatly that in this incarnation you find little difference in your ability to step outside of that paradigm. It fits you so well within your mind and heart. It fits your own thumbprint for the fractal consciousness. You feel that if you do not repeat it, it would not give the great gift that you have given to the Earth Collective so many times before.
Oh, thank you so much for that.
Yes.
Can you confirm if the biblical figures Ezekiel and Elijah are incarnations from the my twin flame oversoul pairing on Earth?
Within your own twin flame, as you would call this, is your own doubling partner within this planet, your own soulmate, your own connected heart. This entity connects to those energies very deeply. Now understand, many humans look at their own figures of the past history, some with very famous names and large energies, and they look back into this, and there are thousands of entities across the world who have looked upon these people and proclaimed within their heart and mind that they were once that entity. And then there are other minds who look at what they say about being that entity and say, you are not able to be that entity when thousands around the world think that they are too. It can only be one of you. But we would say that it is not only one of you that connects to them. Because of the conscious mindset, because of the excitement, because of the experience of fractal consciousness, and many of you sharing the same oversoul, it means that all of you have an opportunity to experience living as that entity. Your counterpart has experienced both of those energies quite deeply, has experienced being both of those energies once before, and brings that memory right into their own conscious mindset and heart of this day.
Excellent. Okay. How do the historical figures Leonardo da Vinci and the Mona Lisa relate to my twin flame and I?
Within this concept, you are perceiving an entity and the artwork that is shared within another entity's figure or presence. Now, within this concept, you are looking at both creation and you are looking at co-creation. Both of you have great experiences in co-creating through many incarnations of the Earth Collective. In that specific lifetime, or in that specific time period, there were links energetically to both of you. Now your excitement and mindset brings you to the possibility of being both this artist and the person being painted from the artist, but there are more lives that connect to that concept. What we perceive is that in the 1100 year, there was a great consciousness of pre-birthing the artistic union, where two entities who looked very similar to the two that you were within the artistic time, that married and connected and stayed with one another. Then again in the 1800s, both people were carrying a fair resemblance to both the artist and the person portrayed on the art. And in that life, you were able to maintain a great deal of knowledge about the painting, about the structure of the painting, and about the artist itself. Knowing about the woman who stood for the Mona Lisa painting brought you excitement in the 1800 life, and also in this. That gives you your connection to her. It gives him the connection to being the artist behind the work.
Okay, what were our names in the 1800 lifetime?
There are energetic probabilities that are connecting you to that specific incarnation more than once. Now both of you in that lifetime are carrying French lineage. In those lifetimes they are not strong enough to pull forward a full name. Vibration quality of that incarnation does not allow us to look at the name as a whole. It only brings a vibrational signature. There is French name, one that Rob's tongue is not able to pronounce, and there is another one that sounds as if it is Fiet.
Okay. And this is kind of a far-fetched question, but does my bloodline in this lifetime connect with Solomon or Yeshua? And if so, is it on my mother or father's side? And did I purposefully design my spirit journey to educate about being a feminine Christ?
When we look at your own DNA and look at your own lineage, we do not see it in a physical presence, but we see it in an energetic presence. We see it leading back to that period of time in that part of the world, but to connect it to another energy that is separate from our awareness in this moment would be very difficult. What we do see is that during the time of the entities of your biblical period, you're connected to many of those energies in this specific bloodline in your life, but to pick out the precise ones is very difficult with this amount of consciousness available to us.
Okay, so humans right now have quite a marriage in their minds to the concept of physical bloodlines. It seems as if from this conversation we should be loosening our moorings and understanding it more as a spiritual connection that is entwined, if I could, or recombinant, if I could term it like that. Is that accurate?
Yes, in our perception, we see it best to hold on to the concepts of what your mind and heart say with one another without worrying about perhaps tying yourself down or anchoring yourself down to one thing precisely. Many human entities look upon their bloodline as if that is a certain part of their entirety of their makeup, and yes, their energy through DNA does carry a great deal of their incarnational cycle, but also, when you are looking at it, it carries energy from non-physical beings to physical entities. So in our perception, when we look at you, we see nothing of your physical self. What we see is your energetic self. So in our opinion, the energetic part is the most important, using your heart and mind to connect to all entities on the Earth Collective, as truly they are all your brothers and sisters. And working upon that premise, we see to be more beneficial. But we do see the value in looking into the physical lineage also, because most humans prefer to incarnate at least within half of a dozen incarnation bloodlines. It usually means that if they are within the 6 approximate that they go down within the lineage and history of, that they will be able to find a great deal of their previous incarnations. But also understanding, when you look at the bloodlines themselves, it is finite. It is one entity birthing another. But consciousness works the exact opposite of this. It works by feeling in moment, by shift of vibration, by shift of conscious thought process, and by shift of creative ability. So it is quite counterintuitive for most humans to look at the energy shifting in that way, unlike a very familiar and comfortable lineage such as your bloodlines that most humans feel great and comfortable with.
That's an excellent explanation.
Yes.
What main roles are my twin flame and I planning to play in the development of the ascended Earth? And I don't necessarily need a specific job title or things like that, but energetically, what roles are we meant to play?
Within the Earth Collective, you are meant to play a great deal of many roles, but none of them are assigned to you in the way that you might think. Many entities come to us expressing their ideas of what they would like to do with the Earth Collective. They also bring forward the concept that they were brought here for a reason. Now, we understand that in the human perception, even often before incarnating, there is thought processes that match this ideal. But in our perception, the free will and shifting of your own energy is of the utmost importance. That aside, what we would say is that in your own rose signature you bring forward the feminine energy and its importance to the collective consciousness, while your counterpart consciousness brings forward the exact opposite, the importance of masculine energy in the divine format. Now, some entities upon Earth look upon the masculine energy and perhaps, as Rob's terminology, would bastardize it very deeply, but in our perception there is two sides to one coin, both playing of equal value. Both of you together play a separate part within yourselves singly, but when you combine, you bring forward the single attributes of masculine and feminine, but also a way to co-create upon an equal level without perhaps protruding on one another.
Well, that's great. Let's see. Have I been part of other ascended human civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy, and what were the star systems?
Yes, now first of all we must address the word ascended. When you are speaking of the word ascended, for the most part most humans believe this to be one who is at one with themselves, or one who has went through a process of ascension. But we assure you that even the smallest microbes have once ascended. They have once went from first entity to second, and in our perception all entities are both ascending and ascended all at once. Mm-hmm. But using the Earth standard definition of ascended races, you have been a part of several thousands that we are able to perceive, which means there are many more that we are not able to perceive. Before entering your Earth incarnation cycle, there is a small place that is beyond the Boetes void within your own known universal consciousness that has given you great abilities to learn and co-create as humanoid entities, several thousand layers, several thousand journeys. But within the Milky Way galaxy, you are well aware of at least one of your incarnative cycles. Your Pleaidian consciousness brought you the knowledge of ascending within a human body. Also understand your lineage to entities that you would perceive as Arcturian, Syrian, even entities that are Andromedan in nature, the ones from Andromeda who reside now within the Milky Way galaxy. These are just a few of many entities that you have participated with and have incarnated with in levels of consciousness that most humans would believe to be fully ascended.
Excellent. In a previous channeling, you explained that the Elohim connected to my heart because they wanted to remind me that I had once been part of that energetic signature. In what star system was I in for my lifetime as the Elohim Edoka? And how can you spell it in English letters? What are the strongest characteristics from that lifetime that connect with my current incarnation?
Yes, although the Elohim energy is very deep within you and very perhaps strong within your presence, the energy in this moment is somewhat subtracted. When you are looking at the consciousness, You have placed a great excitement in many different questions, in many different consciousnesses. Therefore, your energy is still somewhat with Pleaidian energy. It is still somewhat with Atlantean, with many different energies. The Elohim energy that is most prevalent in you is both incarnation as Elohim, but also incarnating as human consciousness with Elohim. So in that way, you are playing two sides of the same role. In both of those energies, there is a great deal of consciousness that brings forward information. But to look deeply into this, it is still but yet a haze of our own perception.
I see. So this will be a bit more development on my side in my soul journey in order to access that a little better.
It is not necessarily this. If your own excitement and thought process bring you closer to that idea before we separate our own verbiage in this evening, our own connection in this night, then possibilities of answers can still occur. But just as many humans are when they are greatly excited about many different subjects, their consciousness is spread throughout all of them. And there is nothing that is wrong with that, but while your energy is in several places at once with several great and exciting concepts, it is not a strong enough connection to that in this moment. But each second changes drastically, each energy changes moment to moment. So perhaps by thinking of them and knowing that that connection is important to you, perhaps we can seek answers together. Understanding, perhaps as Rob has expressed to all humans who understand how this works within our own process, we are gaining insight and access from your own energy. Your excitement of the energy is what piques the availability to the amount of information that we can receive.
I understand. Okay. Recently, in another dimensional level, one of the people that I've been consulting with witnessed an indigo tesseract opening from my heart or heart region that unfolded into a lattice structure. Can you explain the significance of the lattice connection between the crystal and grid and the collective consciousness, and what was that lattice exactly?
Yes, within your own heart chakra, heart energy, as it expanded, the geometric patterns are representations of how your energy was flowing. The reason your friend is able to perceive this is because of your own link to one another, but also her own perception ability within the third eye chakra. Now, within the third eye chakra, it gives her access to see energy as it flows. In that one moment, there were many different entities that were connecting to you more deeply. These entities were connecting with you because of your own excitement of the moment. In that moment, by being able to perceive the geometric patterns as they were going outward, it gave your friend a great excitement also, which led to more perceptions and more insights from the entities upon both of your connections. Now, when you are looking at the concept of the lattice formation from your own chakra system, it is only a representation of how the energy was flowing. That specific pattern represented not only an expansion and opening of your heart, but an expansion and opening of your heart within a moment of connecting from your heart chakra to many different heart chakras. The lattice in that moment is a great receptacle for the ability to connect two or more entities together from heart chakra to heart chakra. When you look at your etheric grid, many of you see it as a lattice structure, many crossings in many different places at specific angles, or even very specific intervals in which these angles cross. In the way that I perceive in my own consciousness, in my own race's consciousness, what we perceive your grid upon is much as a spider web. It is not just the very strongest lines that intersect, but there are also 4 sublayers of lines and multiple sub-sublayers. So in this concept we perceive that your consciousness extending from your heart represents a same physical akin to the very first strongest lines within the Earth collective consciousness within your etheric grid. It represents the same concept as you are connecting to several entities at once, as well as your friend. The Earth is connecting to all the entities at once.
That's great. When my friend looked into me, she said that I carry blueprints and codes, or something like ascension codes. Can you explain that concept really quickly?
Yes, each human carries codes of ascensional process within their own structures of energy, not just their DNA, but their subatomic particles within their own atomic structures in the physical body. The reason why that occurs is that each energy that you expand into in your mind, heart, and chakra system expand. It enables those certain parts to become activated. When we express that there are 12 different portions in your DNA from 7 different races, each time that you activate and expand exponentially, each individual, depending on their belief systems, thought processes, are activating different parts of those energies. As the different parts expand, it comes into the awareness and energy the traits of the race in which the DNA has come from. So when you open up your Arcturian energy, it gives you a great understanding of sound vibration, but also the technological vibration of your inner technology. So as you are looking at those aspects, they are awakening within all human beings. When this friend of yours, when this entity looks at you and expresses that you yourself have codes of DNA, what we believe this entity is perceiving is your own specific codex, your own specific vibrational patterns that will allow you to help with vibration. The rose signature within yourself gives you a different opportunity to work with energy as well. Your energy is one that is spreadable throughout the grid system much more easily to those who are receptive to feminine energy. When entities connect directly to your own energy, when they truly sink in with your signature, it allows them to receive the certain parts of energy that not only you as the rose fractal you understand today, but also many of the entities that you have once been within the rose signature, such as the entities you perceive as ascended masters. It gives them the opportunity, if open enough and if willing and accepting enough, to receive energy from all of the fractals who have already activated great portions of their DNA. By doing this, it allows more to co-create on an easier level.
That's an excellent explanation. Okay, I had a vision in which I was an angel that flew over to the angel I perceived as Lucifer. I gave him a hug and a kiss on the cheek, and all of the asleep angels hovering midair awoke and came down to the plane below. Was this vision in my mind's eye from my higher self or oversoul, and what concept was it conveying? And more specifically, let me ask these other questions. Is Lucifer an energetic byproduct of Earth's collective consciousness in the astral plane? And is Lucifer a real angelic collective like the family of Michael or the family of Gabriel?
Yes, first of all, when we perceive this concept, what we are seeing within your own energy is an experience that you are having from your third eye chakra, which is well understood by yourself. Where it comes from is a multiple layer of energies. You are piercing your own consciousness, going past your third to fourth density consciousness into sixth density varieties, and in sixth density you are able to perceive traces of this energy. This entity does not exist in the sixth density as you would perceive it. It exists within the matrix of the highest level, from within consciousness known as sixth density. So you are truly looking not only through densities but also through matrix energy. This gives you the opportunity to see the remnants of that energy and produce a scenario within your own mind that allows you to connect that energy more directly yourself. Now, when you ask, is this given to you from different entities in the Oversoul, what we would perceive is your higher fractal consciousness is doing the majority of the work. It also is connecting to entities within your Oversoul, so it is perhaps what you would think of as a trio of all three of your lower fractal, higher fractal, and Oversoul consciousnesses. Now, when you are looking at definition of Luciferian consciousness or Lucifer consciousness, as you understand, it represents the archangel energy, it represents an angel energy. Depending upon the view or the person's perception of the world, many think Lucifer as a negative entity. Many are starting to believe that there is a positive connotation. What we would say, it does not matter what others think. Your own perception of this entity will bring you the version of that entity that you need. When you connect to that entity with an open heart, this gives you the opportunity to say, I believe that you are worthy of connecting to my love, regardless of what others perceive. That thought process, that open heart, perhaps expenditure that you have given to this entity, allows you to connect. Now, in our perception, when you speak of Lucifer, what we would say is it is a byproduct of a collective consciousness, or at least the portion of that consciousness that you connected to in that moment. When you look upon angel realms or higher matrix, there are entities that are very similar in vibration of what you would perceive Lucifer to be. So it is not that it is this or that, it is that there is a part of that in all things, and to associate your own perception of energy to it only brings you your personalized version of that entity. When we conceive the concept of higher matrix and peer into them with our own consciousness, this allows us to see vibrational matches of Lucifer in the highest matrices with the archangel consciousness.
Okay. I had an entity that posed as my biological father on 7/11 of last year, and later on in the year as the spirit guide Michael Jackson. Was this actually what we would call an archon? Was this entity a part of the angelic family of Michael, as one of the guides that I've talked to, the physical people that I've asked questions of, told me? And was this designed into my journey so that I could understand the full spectrum of duality?
Yes, first of all, if you do not mind, we wish to ask you one question.
Sure.
What way do you define an archon, as this is a term that is used widely with different connotations?
Well, to be truthful, I'm not quite sure exactly what I would term as an archon. That was something I was going to ask as well. The potentials from what I have heard, read, and potentially even understood within myself are that they could be our thought forms that we have been repressing and that are still taking place in another plane that are affecting us here. It could be entities that are extraterrestrial in nature, that are outside of our ability to see and perceive in the human physical senses. And quite honestly, it could be in any number of other things. So I have no idea what that term exactly means. And so that's why I'm asking for clarification within the concepts that have happened within my life.
Yes, we understand. Now, first of all, we look at this concept as the experience that you have is one that does not only give you an experience of what you would call polarity at extremes, it also gives a concept of manifesting a certain reality within yourself to create an environment of growth. What we perceive is that within this own conscious thought process, in this conscious state, it is akin to the level of the third layer of sleep consciousness. In the third layer of sleep consciousness, great symbolisms are used, energies are attached, and creations happen. You create the environment and the entities within the environment so that you can do subconscious work and conscious work alike. This fits very greatly into this category in our perception. The reason that you are using these symbols we are not able to connect to. We understand the father dynamic. We understand the entity that is called Michael Jackson. We understand both of these energies and what it connects to. But in that specific building construct, we are not sure what you are using the symbolisms for. We do perceive the event as it takes place within your energy, but we also perceive a great deal of learning that occurred. In our perception, that learning is something that is invaluable and able to teach you a great deal. As far as the dynamics, we see other entities attached to both of these symbolisms, but they are not presenting themselves in the manner in which they truly exist. If that, in perhaps some's definition, is archon or econ, then perhaps this is what that concept is. But in our perception, what we see is your own consciousness creating this very specific interaction in order to teach you more than just polarity at its greatest, but a great deal about your deepest subconscious self.
That's excellent. That's what I was figuring, that this was something, this seems like a similar mechanism that humans in general have the power within their subconscious self and their sleep states or things like that to manifest some interesting occurrences here. For instance, with this, one of my relatives, which I don't want to reveal who that is, but one of my relatives actually spoke the name, and that Michael Jackson and Mozart were friends connecting with this individual, and said that Michael Jackson entity or said hello to me, and that stars are angels. Was this my own consciousness connecting in through that relative and creating this, or was this a co-creation?
Yes, and this specific incident is co-creation of great magnitude. It is not only with you and your family member, but also Michael Jackson consciousness is brought forward to co-create that. The Mozart concept brought forward to co-create that, as well as an archangel energy that connects to both of you simultaneously. This is a representation of trying to find means of symbolism within your own co-creation. It is a co-creation of many different and large energies that is able to show you a thumbnail or a postmark of your own conscious mindset, and also your ability to connect to this family member. Your family member's mindset, as well as yours, are very similar in some ways, but very different in other ways, and in that concept you are showing both your contrast and your likeness.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm kind of pulled here in which directions to go. Okay. Does the Earth really have a council of ascended masters, as some humans term the karmic council?
If you are looking at a specific post and base, perhaps we could say that the collective consciousness of entities that you would perceive as ascended masters does exist. Its purpose is to be at a beck and call for energies that desire to tap into it. It's perhaps, as you would see it, creation was evolved in order for other energies to pull upon definitions of their own consciousness and request of their other portions of consciousness. When you are looking at what most people call ascended masters, these are human entities who have lived throughout many incarnations and feel the need no longer to incarnate in that moment. But let us assure you that these councils of ascended masters are truly a representation of how far the human collective has come, of how far throughout various lives, if you add them all up in the summation of what most perceive as physical reality, exists these entities. They are not bound by time. They are not bound by past or future lives. They are only bound to their own desire to share the truth of their own perception with the entirety of the world. So looking into that concept, we are not sure what names are given by these entities or what perceptions and groups are specifically, but we are sure that there are many different smaller collective consciousnesses, and throughout the smaller, they combine for the larger collective consciousness.
Oh, that's an excellent answer. My next question is regarding Kuan Yin. Through one of my soulmates, Kuan Yin, or the concept of Kuan Yin, appeared in his mind's eye while I was channeling the Kuan Yin energy in a gown of white with roses on it, holding a rose scepter. What specifically did that signify? If you could give a brief explanation.
Yes, first of all, as you are speaking of this, we are connecting to a certain energy, but we have no means to define Kuan Yin, as it is not in Rob's vocabulary.
I see.
If you wish, we can speak of the concept of the energy of that moment.
Okay, please, that's what I was really going for.
Yes, when this moment occurred as you are channeling through this specific energy, what it is a very ancient energy. This energy is one of Asian origins, where human consciousness is able to tap into the different roots and perceptionary abilities, being able to transcend the physical concepts within crown chakra and third eye. This ancient energy, as it goes through you, is also being perceived by others. It is because you share a great link with your soulmate. It is because you share a great link with many soulmates within the Earth Collective that you are able to have telepathy at such a level. While you are connecting to the energy as your soulmate connects to you, you are able to share the experience just in different ways. As you understand, if two entities perceive the same, perhaps car accident, as the example Treb Bor Yit NE more commonly uses, it is always someone else's fault. It is someone different's fault from each individual perspective. Different angles account for part of that, but it is truly the belief systems of one. The way and angle that it is viewed is just the smaller subparts of why it is experienced differently from those entities. So in that essence, you are experiencing a two-part energy of one concept, a two-perceptionary energy of one extreme energy-sharing event.
And what was the symbol of the rose scepter denoting, if you could even pull that up from that experience?
Yes, we are looking at the common link between your own fractal imprint. That concept is very deeply ingrained in you. Let us express it in this way. When you are looking at any time you have a representation of either the flower, the name, or vibration of rose, it will always link back to your own occurrences of exploring the feminine energy, past lives of exploring that energy. So as you are mixing into this, it is a symbolism that your mind eye expresses to you to show you the feminine energy working alongside with the other symbolisms. So in this specific incident, you have this great Asian ancient energy, a great concept that is brought forward through yourself in coupling with this rose concept, the scepter. So this is a representation of the feminine energy portion of the ancient Asian occurrences, and this is why it brings you the practice and the rose simultaneously.
Oh, it's an excellent answer. What specific event caused the end of Atlantis and the fallen human consciousness?
Now let us assure you there is a great deal of many different things that have caused this concept. When you are looking at it, it's not one answer fits all. In fact, just in the difference of the entities that I am in proximity to energy, the answer is also different. For instance, your consciousness connected to a part of Atlantis that was experienced through a variety of your twin soul that represented in one way, while Kalina's energy is to the right of myself. Her fractal consciousness that experienced Atlantean energy went through a different portion, a different one version of an infinite many versions. So in both of your answers it would be different. Now let us express for your energy as you experienced it. The sound vibration technology is one that was used greatly in the Atlantean time. Crystalline substances were also used. In creation of crystalline grid substances on the higher density levels, the Atlanteans were able to sprinkle this higher density resonance throughout the entirety of the planet. By working with energy, it allowed their own vibration to affect the entirety of the world's chakra system, the entirety of the way that the chakra system upon the earth worked, which gave way to lower matrix consciousness, which then entangled with their own. It then co-created an experience. Now, in your perception, due to the fact that you have had many experiences in the Earth Collective, even at the beginning of the Earth creative consciousness, your version and Rob's version is very similar, but in different entities there are different experiences from different portions of Twin Soul. This is why when you hear concepts such as Jesus Christ, when you hear concepts of the end of Atlantis, when you hear concepts of building the pyramids, there is always different answers from different channeled entities. This is not always the filter of the channel that causes this. It is literally the difference in the human who asks vibration and what version of that they were connected to. Treb Bor Yit NE has spoken to many entities about these subjects that are very controversial in human nature, and because of the belief systems of the question askers, and because of the version of their twin soul that they preferred, the answers came back differently with the same exact question, even in a shortened span of less than several hours. This is what is a very extremely exciting concept to our own self. We are able to help you go throughout time and space, slipping through the twin soul in various roots and causes of one shared and similar history with different versions.
That's very exciting. I really appreciate that answer. On 9/21 of 2014, I lifted out of my consciousness, lifted out of my body from my heart area and went through into blackness, and there was a tunnel or a circle of white and blue light. And then I ended up in front of what might have been a sphere, and there were words on it that I seemed to be writing similar things, such as authenticity, self-realization, integrity. And then those words disappeared into digital dots once I said I understand, and then they disappeared into the sphere. Was that a monad or the oversoul that I perceived?
Yes, what we can express to you is this. When you are looking into the concept of your fractal consciousness connecting to your oversoul, this experience was experienced in both. Your fractal consciousness is representation of your physical body, and leaving that physical body is actually your own lower fractal consciousness journeying through your higher fractal consciousness, the place in where you transmute all of these concepts and ideas from your own self throughout, placing the dots on them and then placing them back out into the universe, is the configuration of transmutation from your higher consciousness throughout your oversoul. So you are connecting to various portions and parts of the oversoul as you are experiencing this concept. Now, we understand that in our last explanation we gave a much larger answer to this, a much more technical concept. But we are afraid that within the time constraints that we have, that this will be the most profound part and the greatest answering ability in this moment.
Oh, that was excellent. I really appreciate that. And thank you very much for all of your time. You gave many detailed answers that I really understand, actually.
Yes, and we understand that your own excitement has led you to co-create this with us. We wish to express to you that in this transaction with one another, within this co-creation with one another, you are able to explore portions of your own consciousness that we have not explored with you. And in that moment, when you explore those places, it allows us to reflect upon those places in our own self that we have not explored. Therefore, the benefit is both mutual and large in nature, so we give you not only gratitude, but thanks for this also. We wish to express to you that above all things that we have expressed in this evening, to know that you are loved and our perception is of the utmost importance. We bid you adieu.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.